Hi everyone, I'm Malakai and welcome to the Summit Hollywood's Together Content Creation in the Social Justice Age panel. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to discuss the idea of activism through digital media. I'm the founder of Made in Your Image, and I founded Made in Your Image because we are all about empowering the next generation within film, content, and technology. So please join me in welcoming our panelists. First, he is a Twitch broadcaster as TheHunterWild and the Chief Vision Officer at Streamer Square. Please welcome HUNTERWILD. Next, she is a beauty influencer and drag personality. Please welcome Kimora Blac.
Hi.
Okay, all right. Next, he is a digital creator, actor, and singer. Please welcome Kalen Allen.
Hello, everyone.
Finally, she is a recording and social change artist. Please welcome MILCK.
Hello.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for being here and just for joining us. So digital media plays such a crucial role in the way we function and communicate as a modern society. I'm so excited to talk to all of you who, as content creators, have utilized platforms like Twitch, YouTube, and social media to not only entertain, but also mindfully communicate social messages to your audiences. You all have this amazing ability to influence, to inspire, and to educate with just a tweet, a video, or a song. So with all this being said, I'd love to start off the conversation by asking everyone, what does being a content creator mean to you, and how do you feel about the influential power that comes along with it?
I think that being a content creator has been a really interesting journey for me because I started off a live touring musician. Like I spent most of my time driving around in a sedan across the country playing singer-songwriter shows, and it wasn't until like maybe 5 years ago where I started really understanding the power of being online. And I think that being a singer who cares about social change, I like to balance and give out information about causes I'm passionate about, while also weaving in give backs. Because I feel like when I share something that's important in the world, it takes this energy. It's also a giving energy. However, it's a lot for people to process. So it's like this give and take relationship I have with my audience. So I'll then show a silly photo or a personal post or a song, something to mix up the content. So I feel like a chef, like for a while I tested all my content was like a little like saturated with a certain type of flavor. So I'm learning how to mix and match at this time. And I think it's a really big privilege. So I'm very careful of what kind of energy I put into the world, because like it affects us. It really affects, like even when I'm scrolling and consuming content, like my energy can change in a whole day based off a post I read. So I'm super, I care a lot. So I try to put some energy into thinking why I post something. Is it for my own ego, or is it for the betterment of others?
That's fire. Like having that intuitive empathy with what you create, I feel really drives, what your artistry is. And so, yeah, thank you so much for that response. Hunter, what about you?
So one of my greatest values in life, I think, after a lot of reflection and consideration, the greatest value for me, meaning of life, is in conjunction with others, becoming with and co-created experiences. I have deliberated at length what it is that I want to do with life, and being in service to just causes and greater values that extend dramatically beyond myself is something that I've continuously come back to. Having that interactive power and that engagement with, I think, performativity, but the symbiosis and kind of synthesis, the energy that's kind of created in the co-constitution of a community, and these experiences that are crafted with other people inherently, is something that fills me with incredible, like, just joy and mirth. And that sense of responsibility, especially with somebody, as somebody with exceptional privilege, the responsibility feels very, very, very powerful to breathe that very same power back into a community and watch the ripple effect happen kind of shifting the zeitgeist and the culture, starting with my own community, but having that then reflect out further and further as time goes on, has been just a beautiful experience that I do not want to do away with in any way, shape, or form. And it's really exciting to see all of these wonderful people doing something similar.
This was not the job that I wanted when I was like 15 years old. I'm 32, and every day I wake up, just feeling really blessed that I'm able to do what I love as a job. And I get a lot of people that ask me, how do I get there, Kimora? What do I need to do? Do I need to, do this and that? And it's great because there's no right or wrong way to get there. And, what I do with my platform, because I started off doing drag entertainment. I was a TV personality on VH1. And then I've always had a love for makeup. Makeup has always been my window just to be who I wanted to be through expression and makeup and things like that. So I always knew I always wanted to do something with makeup and to dress it, to make it for every type of gender, non-binary, for anyone of any age, race. Just makeup was like that perfect way to create, to kind of be who you are. And that's just kind of what made me who I was. I always say I'm lucky because I, was born in 1988. I grew up when there wasn't any really phones, so I didn't really know how to express myself besides looking at my mom getting ready in the morning. And I always try to say that all the time. It's like, you guys are so like blessed to have social media, but there also comes the negative side of it. And I always do my best to explain the negative side of a content creator. I want to piggyback what MILCK said about energy. I'm such an energy thrive person that sometimes when I wake up in the morning, I see a post, it does drive your energy down. And I do really believe that. So it's all about taming your day, taming what you see, and also what you put out. So, and I try to just spread positivity through makeup and being fun and just, brushes up bad energy down. So.
I love that.
Fire, it's fire. Kalen, what about you?
I think when it comes to being a content creator, I think it's having the power to be direct to consumer. I think it's being able to connect with people immediately and efficiently in your own type of way without having to jump through hoops before. So I think the responsibility of that power is increased because of that. I think you have to realize that I always often say that when I make content, it isn't necessarily based off of what I would like or what I would prefer, but it's what my audience would like and what they would prefer, because they are the ones taking it in, and so you have to really find a healthy balance of being able to communicate effectively to a more general audience, because our audience will always be mixed up of many different people from many different places and many different experiences. And so you have to really learn a new language, and that language is figuring out how to communicate best to the people in front of you.
In addition to the daily content you create, with a range of focus from beauty to video games, you all have made a conscious choice to also speak on social issues. What was the inspiration or turning point as to why you decided to incorporate such topics into your content?
I think that just like paying attention, right? Like I think maybe in the beginning when Facebook just started, it was like, let's post about us. And then we learned that we could transmit important information to each other. And then we learned, and we're like, oh, am I going to sit back or do something? So I feel like as also like a woman of color and as a survivor of abuse, like those are things that are integrated into my music and how I do things. And I just want people to feel less alone, because life can feel lonely. Life can feel like overwhelming. And like, I think we give the love we want to receive. So that's, I try to put out stuff that I want to see more in the world.
I think related to that, in the internet age, we have this infinite potential for connectivity, but a lot of times we end up feeling disconnected. I think in that context, it's like we have all of this at our fingertips, but sometimes it can feel like a void. It can feel empty, like we aren't making those connections, just any average person. And that responsibility that we have as content creators is also as human connectors, connecting the disconnected and bridging those gaps.
it's kind of crazy because I usually try to put out 2 videos a week, and the videos are about, I want to say about 13 minutes long, usually is what I aim for, when it goes from, you know, talking about makeup and talking about my day and things like that. And sometimes I get to this point where I don't know what to say because it sounds so repetitive and robotic sometimes. So what I usually do is I try to listen to my friends in the comments, you know, like there's so many people that come back to my videos that I actually kind of know them because I know it's almost like I kind of invent like the noise that they sound like, you know, like kind of how they talk. And it's like, oh my God, I kind of know you, but I don't even know how old you are, where you live. I have no idea what you look like. And it's just crazy because the connections that I have with these people are probably not people I would introduce myself in person at like a Starbucks or anything like that. So, you know, just to piggyback on the language that we kind of need to know to do the content and social media, it's crazy because I think I accidentally developed it. I don't know anyone that's ever taught me how to do this. And I think it's just going through like listening and paying attention to the comments because that's the way they communicate with you. And I think that's pretty awesome that people do look at those, because when people don't look at comments and things like that, it's like, how do you know the conversations that, or if you said something wrong or you said something right, or how do you know you're so impactful? So I, you know, not recently, but started to really go down those comments and really listen to those. And I mean, I get kids that are like 12 years old talking about coming out and how to do it. I'm like, oh my God, you're putting yourself on this comment in front of everyone. It's insane to me. So it's crazy because I always, you know, tell people like, if you're going to be doing content or just on social media in general, which we do live in that world, we do, you know, we check our phones more than we check, you know, anything else. Just go down the comments. It's just crazy what people would say. And you know, for me, I don't comment. It's just not my thing. You know, it's just, you know, my comments are like a little emoji or something. But it's just mind blowing that people, you know, might not have anyone to talk to, and comments is what they live for.
I mean, what kind of social topics have you brought up in your content that you think kind of inspire some of those comments?
I do lots of different topics. I think it's like what I kind of, when I'm in the mood for, or when I get inspired by someone, or a social issue or something that's really major, like right now, gender, you know. I am a gay male, I identify as male, I just love drag. And for me, you know, I till this day am still educating myself on the different genders that there are. I don't know all of them, you know, and it's intriguing to really learn them and figure out who is who, you know. And I think, thank you to social media, I'm able to kind of figure out, oh my God, she identifies as that now, you know. And it's crazy what you can learn when you talk to your friends and, you know, your fans, I would say, or are people that follow you, you know. I think, you know, for example, you know, my coming out story isn't as bad as a lot of people growing up. You know, I have a very amazing family. Mom, you know, obviously knew I was super gay since I was in 3rd grade. And, you know, just to do my part to help people come out when they're in 3rd grade or 4th grade, it's my duty, because I didn't even know what gay was. I just knew I was super different, you know. And thank God to my mother, you know, she knew, you know, I was special, and she knew, and she made it, you know, very easy for me to grow up as a child. And I know that's not the same case for a lot of people. Till this day, I mean, now we have television, social media. I can imagine it's probably kind of harder. You know, you start to compare yourself as a kid. You start to kind of think this is the right way to come out and things like that. So I try to break it down to really not say there is one way or a right way, but there's so many ways in how you dress it and how you present yourself and things like that. So I try to kind of give little tips and tricks in there to kind of really make it easy for people, because I know people struggle. And I think, you know, now we have this incredible tool of social media. How are we able to really manage it and inspire these kids? And I say kids because it's just, there's so many kids now. I really think kids, boy and girls, not what they go by, you know. And sometimes, you know, they might take years and years to figure it out, but I try to do my part to educating myself and then kind of giving tips and tricks like that.
And Kalen, what about you? You know, what are some of the social justice topics and things that you like to personally speak on as a content creator?
Well, I think To talk about things that are social justice related, I don't necessarily look at it as social justice. I look at it as you aren't able to enjoy my entertainment without acknowledging my existence. I think my entire life is political. I think who I am, the way that I walk around this world, how I function in this society is political. It is inevitable at this point. So me speaking on topics that actively influence me and affect me is not some revolutionary thing. It's not. It's just me talking about my life, you know? So now to get specific, I think that's talking about things is like Black Lives Matter, you know, or talking about things regarding my Black queerness, you know? And I don't like to just say being gay as the only thing, because I do believe that I am Black first, then gay. And I think the intersectionality of all that can really make things even harder in this world, you know? And I think a lot of times we like to overlook that. And then I think that's why within the LGBTQ community, we get a little confused when we don't understand why there was a brown stripe added to the pride flag, you know, because people think that being gay is a monolith in itself. It's like, well, if you're this, then you experienced all these, and it's just a general type of experience when it's not. It all depends on class, it depends on race, it depends on gender. All those intersectionalities start to, you know, mess with each other. And I think we overlook that a lot.
Hunter, as a streamer, you ease a lot of important issues on topics such as mental health, masculinity, and even environmental philosophies through the use of humor in video games. Could you share more about these social causes with our audiences, and also just some specific examples of discussions you've had in your own community?
Yeah, certainly. I think one of the big factors for me with this that I'd like to introduce is the levity and humor is a critical component for me when it comes to creating a dialectic and kind of opening certain doors for receptivity on the side of the audience. I think it's one of two factors that I use kind of incidentally that are disarming. And I find that to be pretty critical for developing the message in conjunction with a community and with a chat. So two of the big factors for me are destigmatizing mental health issues, particularly for men, and masculinity as such, an emotional expression for men. Part of the reason for this, which is something that I would recommend for anybody, is that these are issues that are personal to me. That by itself creates a conviction and a lot of fuel and passion in the conversations that allows for a deeper connection with a lot of people, particularly people like myself, incredibly privileged white men who have struggled with a lot of these things, especially, as a lot of us know, in the culture that can create a kind of negative, self-fulfilling kind of shame spiral that prevents men from discussing the things that they're struggling with and keeps it locked in, only furthering this dynamic. And when you have it locked in for yourself, you tend to reinforce that in culture. So it continues to feed back in. You shame other people for doing this because you don't have that outlet, and then they're shaming other people, and those people are shaming you. And it's this horrible like cycle of shame in masculine culture. So I really like to dive into these discourses in a dialectical kind of format, because I'm never done processing these myself. You know, I'm until the day I die, and who knows, maybe even after that, I'm still kind of going through this continual becoming and this learning, and that can't be done one-sided. Like, I can't just sit and meditate and, you know, become the Buddha of masculinity. That's not a thing that, like, my identity is never going to be complete. So having that feedback with the community is really, really critical for this. And when it comes to shame, I'm a huge fan of Brené Brown and talking about shame resilience. Yeah, big fan of Brené Brown. And I think that these are some critical things to bring up, especially as somebody who is very overtly masculine. You will stumble onto my stream and, you know, see a bearded white guy crushing a video game on the hardest difficulty. You'll stumble onto my tweets and you can see me, you know, chaining bullseyes with throwing axes and talking about minimalistic survivalism and seeing muscular fitness pics. And then right next to that, this incidental conversation about the difficulties and my own personal struggles with developing my own sense of masculinity and my stay in a crisis center because of the depths of depression and anxiety that were like crippling me and taking over my life. And opening those doors myself with this point of privilege that is disarming for a lot of other white men, it really opens up that door, because you see that you have this humor and this levity, all of this comedy, and you know, you see all of the overt masculine features and this masculine performance, and then comes these other parts of the conversation, and those plant little seeds. This is what happened to me in part of my own development here. These plant little seeds of doubt and challenge that allowed me, in my own experience and journey, to start challenging and questioning a lot of the things that seem to have been foisted upon me, the ways that culture kind of, the sociocultural dynamic of masculinity was kind of restricting and confining, that I wasn't allowed to define myself in a certain way. And these conversations, you know, I've streamed for over 10,000 hours, probably like 12,000 hours now. They happen a lot, and it's very organic too. You know, playing video games, there's a heck of a lot of toxic masculine culture that bubbles up there. And I'm playing a lot of new releases, and so people will come in and just start, you know, spouting off whatever their own worldview happens to be in conflict with the game. And I then get to, you know, walk right into that conversation with all the confidence in the world, because I've been around this block 1,000 times with myself and in this kind of dialectical format. I relish it and I love it for myself in my own sense of responsibility. I think that is something that is an obligation that comes with privilege, is being able to make some of those shifts in the institution from the inside, because those doors are open for me, right? Like every door is open, and easing some of those conversations because of assumptions that people have about me is something that I hold in great value and want to ensure that I don't squander it. Trying to make shifts in culture and personal perspectives and worldviews, sometimes one person at a time, sometimes hundreds or thousands of people at a time. That is something that I cannot look away from. And I think that if privilege is just going to be bestowed upon you, you need to work that to the best of your ability to provide the greatest benefit to the most people.
So let's head on to MILCK. On the music side, you write about songs about issues that many deal with, such as healing from abuse and trauma. Your song Quiet became the unofficial anthem for the 2017 Women's March. And now with your new song, Somebody is Beloved, you're working towards racial justice while raising awareness for multiple communities and organizations. Why is it important for you as an artist to incorporate these social issues and themes into your music?
Well, first, I wanted to note like that each one of you on this panel has talked about not knowing and being really open about that. And that's something that I like really admire about content creators, is this like open state of living and sharing and like admitting the not knowing. And I have that on from my perspective as well. Like when I wrote Quiet, I wasn't like sitting down to be like, I'm gonna write an anthem. It was like me not knowing if I was worthy, and me not knowing why I had this like ball of energy stuck in my neck, and I felt like I was going to explode until I wrote that song. Then when I brought it to the Women's March, thousands of people started sharing their own stories, and then I started realizing and I think all of us on this panel are doing that, we're putting the healing we desire for ourselves into our art. And that is like that. I think that's and I think with looking at the racial injustices, and you know, my parents chose to move to the United States. They immigrated here to participate in the system that exists. So me growing up, I was taught I had to succeed 3 times as much as other people in order to even deserve a seat at the table. So one, I had to deal with a lot of self-worth issues because I got to do the most to feel like I even have value. And then the other side is that I've been causing harm not even knowing, because I have been affirming this ladder that's been built. Like Sonia Renee Taylor talks about, like, if we all like agree that there is a ladder, that there's people who are better and people at the bottom, then we're just like, it's like the idea of money. We've all agreed that this idea exists. So I spent most of my life like being ambitious, and I'm trying to be not ambitious, because or if I'm going to be like driven to do something, I want to be clear on why, because a lot of the things that I did when I was younger was just affirming the racist structure that existed without even being personally racist. And then my mind exploded. And I think a lot of people's minds are exploding currently, which is great. And so Somebody's Beloved, I, wanted to create a song. And I understood like my place as a non-Black singer, singing about like, man, Black Lives Matter. I was like, well, what do I put behind it? Because I didn't feel like just singing. I don't want to say just singing, because singing is a valuable activity within itself, but creating a fund and like researching organizations. And this campaign is driving me to like open my phone to share my thoughts, because I don't know, that I think that's how I'm going to cope as a creator, is just to create causes that I care about. So I'll keep showing up, if that makes sense.
Have you seen any of your fans like reflect what the music has, caused them to feel?
So with the song Somebody's Beloved, what has been really special for me, and it has been that different people of different types of backgrounds, like an Asian woman who's like had a similar upbringing to me, which I had a lot of privilege. I grew up like upper middle class. Like, she emailed me and said, thank you for showing me how to have more empathy. And then, and then a Black person who has a completely different like story than me is like sharing her experience in her childhood and how the song spoke to her, and like different people are kind of sharing, oh, okay, this is helping me to see. Because with Somebody's Beloved, I wanted, from my perspective, is like, I want to help people tap into a sustainable journey with social justice, racial justice, any of that. And so I want to make it like creative and like visionary, and have people address the guilt and the fear, and then let that be digested so that we can move forward. Because I don't think shame and guilt are just not good long-term emotions, and I want people to do the work for forever. So getting messages, like people feeling like they see themselves in the movement, is like the coolest thing, because I'm still learning how to be in the movement too, so we can do it together. As for survivors of abuse, like when my song went viral at the Women's March, that was insane. Like, I was getting thousands of emails of people sharing their trauma, and so I had to actually learn how to receive stories of trauma, because that's like, people have PhDs for that, and I didn't understand that, and I was kind of burning myself out. So I had to learn, and I know that a lot of people on this panel probably receive a lot of messages like that as well. So I'm actually curious how you all, like, I don't know, self-care and kind of keep going, because it's a pretty intensive job being a content creator, because I feel like it is kind of like 24/8,
I mean, so how do y'all deal with that? Like, just constant messaging, and how are you there for your followers without burning yourself out?
Ooh, well, I can tell you that it is absolutely, it's exhausting, and it is hard to keep up with it all. And I think for me, I think at first I tried my best to like keep up with it, but I think what I have to do now is that I have to take breaks. And when I say that, I mean, like, I have to completely remove myself. I literally, like you see it, Milk, it's like there are people with PhDs for this, and it's like, I cannot be your therapist. I cannot be your teacher. I cannot be your parent all the time, and I think what happens, even when you are a content creator, you start to realize that it starts to infiltrate your personal relationships as well, even when it goes down to dating, and so it's kind of hard for you to figure out how to turn it off, because you always have to be on all the time, and I think what happens is that when somebody sends you an email, they don't realize that they aren't the only ones sending an
Exactly.
email. Like there are a million people, like I get hate messages saying, oh, I guess you don't talk to your fans. I guess you don't reach out. And I'm like, sweetheart, there's thousands of other people that need the same help, and I can't give that to you. You know, there's only one of me, and I only have so much that I can handle myself.
It's hard to kind of really go down all the messages. I'm sure we all get so much, and it's like, what's recent, what's not recent, and when you find one that's like weeks old, and like, oh my God, I feel like the most horrible person in the world. I have to agree with you, because I can't fix the world. And I, you know, as thankful as I am, you know, as much I can inspire people, if I do or not, that's what I can do. You know, I didn't sign up to be a therapist. I didn't sign up to give you advice. You know, I'm still needing advice for myself. I still talk to my mom like once a week. So it's just, you know, you know, and a part of it too is that I don't want to give the wrong advice and be the reason of something. And, you know, and I don't want to give that, because, you know, they might think, you know everything, you know, they might think I know everything and I can help them. And, you know, depending on the situation's different, you know. I don't get like life threatening situations if I don't even know what I would do. But I think I try to answer questions. And what I do is I kind of go down the, you know, messages. I kind of like summarize what's going on, what, you know, what they think of the video. And then I kind of take it to the next video and kind of summarize it. And hope that they watch it, you know, hope I kind of say little tips and things in there to kind of help them, you know. And if I did, you know, if I do, that's great. If I don't, I don't know if I did, you know. And I think a part of being a content creator is that you have to be okay with not helping everyone. I think, you know, it sucks because I wish I can, but I'm only one person. And I think it's just really hard to be that person to really give that strong advice sometimes. And I always try to, if I were to write back, I would say, be you, be who you are. You know, if you can wake up at 6 a.m. and smile in the mirror, you're doing it perfectly versus a lot of people. And you know, however they want to hear it, they can hear it, you know. But I think that's just like a strong message, because it's not really telling you what to do. It's kind of like, you know, telling you to smile.
Oh, absolutely. I always tell my friends, I'm like, I know it may appear that I have it all together, but most of the time I'm like, Kalen, what are you doing? Like, what is this?
That's
like,
my public presentation, but behind the scenes.
Right. I'm like, what am I doing? What is this? Why are we doing this? Is this, sometimes I'm borderline like, you know what? I would be fine going to an office doing a 9 to 5. I would be okay with that.
Oh my God. That's the perfect segue for Kalen. I have a question for you. So Kalen, you recently rebranded your YouTube channel, Personally Kalen, and your weekly series, Kalen, to focus on more social issues such as voting and Black Lives Matter. Could you share with us your experience with the new focus and what you've learned so far?
Yeah, so the reason why I did that was because during the Black Lives Matter, the most recent movement, I don't know why we always talk about Black Lives Matter as if it was something that just happened during the pandemic, like it wasn't something that had been happening for years. So I don't know why we always reference it that way, but in the most recent, you know, movement of it all, I was very vocal about it, you know, in a very candid way. And I lost a lot of followers. I lost like over 30,000 followers, you know, and people were very angry about it. And I just didn't understand that, because I was like, well, I believe that I've always been Black. That's been very evident. You can see that. And so, and it was a thing to me, just like I said earlier, it's like, you can't enjoy my entertainment if you want to ignore my existence. And so from then I was just like, no, we're not doing this no more. We're not going to only entertain people and just make people laugh. I said, everything needs to have a purpose and an intention. And personally, Kalen, I wanted to do focused on mental health and well-being, because I knew that this had been a very trying time for people, you know, and I knew that I was in therapy. I knew I was having anxiety attacks at the beginning of the pandemic, and I was losing my mind. And I was like, well, now that I feel like I've started to get out of that space, how do I help people to find their own voice within the pandemic, you know? So that's why I rebranded Personally Kalen. And then with Kalen, I was like, there's a way that we can entertain people, but also educate them at the same time. And I said, so that's what I want to do. I want to bring in new cultures and new experiences, because I also believe that bigotry is a form of ignorance. I think a lot of people, especially coming from Kansas, is that a lot of people have these prejudices because they have never experienced or seen anything outside of what they have on a day-to-day basis, you know? And so I said, well, then I will take the opportunity to take these millions of people that watch my content and infiltrate their lifestyles to say, but these other lifestyles exist. So that was the whole catalyst for that.
So that almost kind of brings me over to Kimora. A similar question for you. You've been a big advocate for the drag community, and you've also been speaking very candidly about topics in your YouTube series, Kimora Unfiltered. Could you share some of the ongoing issues that you'd like to highlight and how we as a community can support?
Wow, the Kimora Unfiltered section. I was very skeptical about it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it. But there was just like a part of me that was like, you know what, I need to do this. You know, I jumped into the YouTube world about 3 years ago. And before that, I never did YouTube videos. I was always on like a tour. I did shows around the world and things like that. But as that kind of goes, you know, down, you know, you don't get as popular because other girls come in and things like that. I was like, you know what am I going to do with my life? But I know I love makeup. We live in this world, well, the beauty world, where obviously there's so much drama. I think the beauty world this is probably like the peak of the mountain of drama. I think now people only wear certain brands because of certain things. I think people are more aware. I think people support who they want to support because of what the brand stands for. And I find that so important. And I think that is something that was never brought out unless the YouTube world brought it out, you know, because I mean, working for a MAC Cosmetics store 9 years ago, that's all I knew. I didn't know what they stood for. So, you know, beauty videos are so popular and I wanted a piece of the pie. So I did my beauty videos. But I just find myself it's like I'm selling product, and that's not what I was trying to do. It was just so robotic. I kind of get on here and, you know, I stand in front of my camera and I say what I like, what I don't like, and I put the wig on, bada bing, bada boom. And I thought about it, I was like, you know what? The person that I am off camera is so different, you know? And I wanted to show people that. And I designed Kimora Unfiltered because I just wanted to show people that you don't have to be robotic all the time. And meaning I want to get on there and curse. I want to talk shit. I want to get on there and not be this person in a wig all the time. You know, one of the biggest issues to me that I really want to fix, if I can, is cancel culture. I think cancel culture is so toxic. I think it's it's like a form of bullying on the internet. You know, when you cancel someone, I just find that so harsh. And I think we get to this point where social media, we're like quick to say, oh, this person's this way, this person did that, this person has history, we cannot, he's canceled for life, he should go to hell, he should burn. You know, and it's so easy to write that in text, but is it as easy to say it in voice? Would you actually say that to someone in public? Would you actually tell someone that at school? I don't think so. You know, so I think we live in this, like I said, social media world where we're so quick to say certain things through comments, through emails, through video, and not get the other reaction. This is one thing I said in the unfiltered section. I was like, you guys can unfollow. It's like powerful. It's so powerful to unfollow someone, you know, and I do it all the time. And then maybe in a year, follow them again. I don't know. So I think, you know, when you have control of your social media, you should control it and really allow the vibe that you want, the energy that you want, because that's going to make you who you are.
Can I interject something?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Kalen and Kimora, both of you talked about losing followers when you went into a sort of unfiltered mode. Like, this is me. I'm presenting the things that I care about that matter to me, to my identity. This is who I am. This is what you're getting. Losing those followers, something that's occurred to me when I kind of followed a similar trajectory, speaking much more candidly and being much more vocal about matters of justice. I ended up kind of like reconceptualizing it, the loss of followers, as just refining my community, finding the people who actually vibe with the thing that I'm putting out there. That's who I want to connect with. Those are the people that I want to be watching my stuff and talking with me in the chat and in the Discord and whatnot. not the people who have a completely like diametrically opposed worldview and they're not going to change their mind. I don't want that.
Amen.
Be my guest.
I agree.
There's the door.
And that's, you know, I agree with you as well. You know, people know me as this drag queen from a TV show. There's about 150 or 60 of us, you know, and, you know, just speaking of the drag community, there's a lot of comparisons. People start to compare you like, oh, your drag is not worthy because you don't look like her. Your drag is different because you don't have big hair. Your drag is not worthy because you don't do the splits. Your drag is not worthy because your makeup's different. And I think just you have to really kind of block it out and just give the love to the people that really know who you are and that are giving you the time. And that's what I've till this day still have to kind of I get used to, because you know I do put on like a persona and I kind of try to be this, but I always end up at the end of the video like, hey girl, you know. So it's really crazy, the comparison, but that's social media. People log on and they think they know everything, and then they will do what they can do to bring you down, and you have to block it out. And I teach my friends that. I teach them like you have to block those out.
So what advice would you give to your current and future content creators who would also like to incorporate social activism into their work?
Wow, I there's a couple things. So the first would be to really rest in knowing that like you're good as you are. Like, I know that sounds so like people are like rolling their eyes. Oh God, here she brings out the sage and she's gonna burn. But I do think that like if we create from a place, and I've done this myself, if we create from a place of feeling like we need to prove ourselves, we create harmful content that really just clogs the pipelines. So first is like understanding, getting good with ourselves as much as possible. I'm still doing it every day, but I'm trying to go gentle with myself. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing would be to really get like, just pay attention to the world. Like, then maybe certain news channels that feel like, you know, I do NPR, or I'll do like Democracy Now! And I'll do snippets of it, like what I can consume at one time. And I let those things like soak in, and I try to feel how I feel about the world, and what I try to pay attention to what like raises my blood pressure. Like when I start getting that like that blood rush, like then I know that there's something I want to speak about or address. So I call it the traveling heat, and I follow my traveling heat. Like anywhere, once I feel that heat, I'm like, oh, there's something there. And as a young kid, I used to put it away in a little box, and now I just let it sit with me. And then eventually a song comes out, or like a post, an introspective post or something like that. So pay attention to the traveling heat, and like be kind to yourself, because the kinder we are to ourselves, the kinder we are to, I like how Kimora said, our friends, you know, our friends online.
Kalen, what about you?
I would say follow your instincts. I am the type of person where I know when something's going to be successful when it comes to the content that I make. I can feel it. And I always tell people to go off of how you feel. If you are making content, if you are talking about something, if it feels right, then let that guide you. You know, it's kind of like the traveling heat, you know, in some sort. It's trusting your talent and trusting that you know what you're doing, and allowing that to be your motivation instead of doing what other people want you to do, or doing what other people are telling you to do. But
following
also,
your inner voice.
Exactly. But also being receptive of outside criticism, and also opinions, and allowing yourself to be able to grow and learn at all times, and getting rid of this mindset, which this is a problem that I think we have in society, is that we live in this space of, well, I'm not ready yet, because we think that growth is something that is not infinite, and that is not true. Growth is something that will continue on for the rest of your life. There will never become a day where you will wake up and be like, oh, I'm ready now. Oh, I got it. No, that's not how it works, you know? And so I think when you live in that space, you will always put everything to a side, because really it's a form of fear, because it's procrastination.
Kimora, what about you? Like, what's some words of advice you'd give to other content creators?
I would say inspire someone. I say, you know, you can go into it with this mindset of, I'm going to do what I'm great at. I'm going to do what I love to do. But you might eventually accidentally do something different that you can inspire someone, you know. And I think, you know, my idea of my channel wasn't to talk about social things, you know, because I'm not the best like speaker in the speaker in the house. But somehow I really educated myself. I knew what I needed to talk about. I learned, I opened up my ears, and it just kind of incorporated as I'm putting on a lipstick. So I encourage you to do that. And like I said, just inspire someone. I think, you know, whether inspiring yourself or a 12-year-old kid that's wanting to come out, a 12-year-old kid that never put on eyeshadow because she lives in a hostile environment in his house, and eyeshadow could be the make it or break it for him. Or, you know, someone that's finding their gender, or someone that's wanting to do drag, to experience, you know, fashion and things like that. So I think if you inspire someone, I think you're on track.
Comparison is the thief of joy. And in a social media age, we see everybody's highlight reels, right? Like all of my friends are celebrating their victories. And so I see these big milestones being hit. And if I'm comparing myself to all of this, like the best of the best in my feed, it's just invariably going to bring me down. I have to like kind of like reel all of that back in and go like that's not my focus, is trying to be them. I'm still trying to be me. I'm still trying to figure out what that is. And that's a big part of this journey, and focusing on that also, I think, helps go toward that idea of inspiring somebody. When I talk about my own journey in process, still at 38, still in process, you know, other people get to hear that and go like, oh yeah, so I'm not supposed to be done at 24. I'm not supposed to have all the boxes checked off. And that's a big thing. I think that rolls into a critical issue, a key element of this, which is empathy, something that we've talked about several times throughout the panel. But that empathy also has to be it has to have boundaries with it. As Milk was talking about earlier, that sense of kind of like infinite empathy is invariably going to cause harm to you, which in turn allows you to, or prevents you from being able to connect with people on the deep level that you want to down the road. And so you have to like kind of navigate that in a really difficult but interesting way. Part of that empathetic approach, I think, is making it personal when it comes to matters of a just cause and being a content creator with principles. The personal connection to the issues themselves can create that empathetic bridge to the people that you want to connect with. And the driver of passion and conviction that you can infuse the cause that you're committed to with is something that opens the door for a lot of other people. Everybody wants to connect with somebody who's got fiery passion about something. And all of us want to open up to that. We want to be recipients of that. So when we have the opportunity as content creators to actually put that into the world, I think that should be done. You know, your unique and personal connection to the matters that you care about, of justice, equity, cultural dynamic, a particular cause, those are the things that allow you to become authentic and genuine. And that's what everybody wants to connect with. So then you're able to make those connections with individuals and other collectives, other groups, where everybody wants to be on board because they feel that fire and that passion. And they're like, this is infectious. I want this. I want more of this. Give me more of that. So one of the things that I do, I run a second brand, I co-own it, called Streamer Square, and it's all about content creator education, like how to really like fill your role, how to really jump into it and level up your game. And one of my focuses there is all about vision and mission. So one of the things that I always come back to, we have a bit of a bingo in a lot of our meetings, is how many times I'll talk about vision in the meeting. It's ubiquitous. I think it is critical for content creators out there of any stripe, but especially those who want to commit themselves to a just cause very openly and publicly, to craft a personal vision for their identity and their brand that's outward facing. And they can keep that hidden. You know, it can be for your eyes only, but make big, bold letters. These are my values. This is what I care about. This is what I want to breathe into the world. Go back, check it regularly, check in with yourself and with that vision and that mission statement to see if you're fulfilling it and how you can grow into it even more.
What you guys are all bringing up is really important to me, just because I feel like I grew up in a space where I was constantly battling shrinking myself. And so I almost feel like as content creators, as we're elevating not only ourselves by unshrinking ourselves, but we're also empowering others to actually see themselves for the first time. So like,
right.
Yeah, everything that y'all are saying is spot on, because I think a lot of people right now, especially in this day and age, they're just now seeing themselves. And that kind of brings me to a segue to our last question. In keeping with our summit's themes of diversity, allyship, and access, can you all share some final thoughts on where you'd like to see the world of digital media evolve?
I would hope, and I know this may be contradictory to like my entire career, is that I hope that we start getting less digital content. I think it's too much digital content. I think we are living in a fantasy world. You know, I kind of miss, especially now during the pandemic, everything we do is digital. You know, it's oversaturated at this point. Like, I miss human interaction. I miss connecting with people on a more realistic level. You know, I miss going to a library or touching an actual book, not downloading an Audible book or, you know, doing it that way. It's like, I hope that we find some sort of groundedness. I hope that we find ourselves connecting back to how we are supposed to operate and communicate on a more organic.
I was gonna say, yeah, like how I view the internet is, you know, like trees communicate through mycelium, that fungi, right? They share nutrients with each other. If one tree is starving, like the trees will work as a community and they share information. And I think humans were behind trees and we just created our mycelium. And I think, and which is the internet. And I think there was a time when trees had mycelium as a fungus to like transport nutrients, and they probably like transported too many nutrients or toxins got through, and like we're just learning how to use this crazy thing that like connects all of us. And I agree with Kalen. Like, I hope that there's more of a groundedness. I almost do think like how we used to look at smoking and secondhand smoking and not understanding the harmfulness of it. I do think there's some habits that we have now that in like 20 years we'll look back and be like, oh, that was that was not so good.
Right.
And I think that my partner said something really brilliant, and I keep thinking about it. He's like, I don't want to have followers. I want to have leaders. Like, you know, and I think when people comment and say like, you're so, like, they give me the compliments or whatever, I say, what you see in me is a reflection of what is in you. So go, like, that's you, you know. And I think that's what I hope for, is like, maybe it will be this thing where it's like less of a followership, but like, I don't know, a coexistence type of thing.
Because of the growing power of the individual to have influence on the collective, on culture, and on industries, I think a huge part of this, revisiting some of the things that I had said before, is when it comes to just causes, making them personal is vitally important, in my opinion. I have found myself subject to this this trap of getting caught in thinking that I should promote a certain cause because I think it's important. And it is. It's always important. But it's not my cause. It's not one that I feel on a deep identity level personally committed to. And that doesn't mean that I shouldn't support it, but it might mean that my efforts in committing myself to a cause would be better served by something that I am deeply internally driven by. You know, my own personal conflicts, my own personal strife and difficulties and challenges and conquests and achievements. I think those matter to me. I mean, I would hope so. And I think that then translates into the commitment to a cause. So that's a big point of advice that I would make to any content creator out there looking to bring social justice issues into your content and your brand identity, is making those things very deeply personal. Even if it seems like only a handful of other people would care about this, you will be surprised by how many people are out there that can connect to the same issue that you have been quiet about. They are also quiet about. And there's a lot of silence out there. And breaking that silence sometimes is on the content creator or the influencer or the leader to do that leading.
I think where I would love to see the digital world go is, I think online bullying is a big deal. I'm a victim of online bullying all the time because, you sit there with this face and say like, oh, I don't read these things, I don't care. But you kind of do, and I think it affects us really in many different ways. I would love to see another system of numbering. I think we live in this world where if you have 1 million followers, you're just this way. When you have no followers, we don't take you serious. I would love to see a different kind of system. I think that really does a lot to people. Yeah. As much as I would love people to, not stay on social media all the time, but that's kind of, I'm a victim of it. I live off of it. I check my phone daily. It's my job. And but I still go in those corners where I compare myself to other people, and it just sucks. So I think online bullying, I just wish it stopped. Listen, we're not all going to learn everything right away. Every day I'm still educating myself on so many things. What's happening this year in politics and gender and racism and Black Lives Movement. I'm still educating myself and really putting in the work to know. And I think social media, if that's the number one source to learn that's where it needs to be. I think that's what it needs to be.
I desire for a world where we put people over profits. And I think if we do that, systems will change and the way we interact on socials will change, but that's what I desire. That's the root of it for me.
Yeah.
It just really fills me with light to see that each of you guys have made it your mission to not only change the infrastructure of what those systems look like, but also just to empower and educate others across the world. So it really means a lot because again, I work with youth, and a lot of these young girls and young women that I'm working with, they don't see themselves. And so being able to shift perspective and really help, again, people, especially the younger generation, actually see themselves, it really means a lot. So
I have been inspired so thoroughly by all of this, of this. I'm now really excited to see what the outcome of this will be on other people's lives.
Wow, everyone. Thank you so much. The future is exciting. It's hopeful. It's been so dope getting to talk to all of you guys and getting to hear how you use your platforms for good to spread these important social messages. We have the power to educate people through the work that we do. So let's just keep creating and let's just keep moving forward. Once again, thank you so much, HUNTERWILD, Kimora, Kalen, and MILCK for sharing your insights. My name is Malakai, and this has been the Summit Hollywood Together's Content Creation in the Social Justice Age panel. Thank you for watching.